Hello, housekeeping here. Before we begin the episode, I just have to tell you my exciting news. So finally, after months of talking about it and toying with the idea, I finally set a date for my first ever masterclass. Are you tired of spending hours preparing lessons? Would you like to cut down on your prep time and stress levels? Would you like to learn how to exploit just one piece of material in tons of different ways? Look no further. Introducing Less Prep, Less Stress, how to exploit your materials in multiple ways. In this masterclass for English teachers, I'm going to give you so much value in 1 hour, you'll barely believe it. You will learn how to use just one piece of material to draw students' attention to and practice institutionalized grammar phrases. Get away from rules-based grammar. Recycle previously learnt phrases. Use repetition to improve students' confidence. Use chunking to improve vocabulary retention, correct students' emergent language, and review and practice pronunciation. And this, in turn, will reduce your prep time, reduce your stress levels, and make happier students. What more could you want? Oh, you want more? You want more? Okay, I'll give you more. On top of all this value, there'll be a bonus Q&A session at the end of the masterclass. All this for just €25. But wait, there's more. What do you mean there's more? Of course there's more. If you book before the 31st of August, you will get a 20% discount. Just find the link in the show notes of this episode or in my bio on Instagram or any of my social media posts coming up in the next few weeks. You'll find the link there and just use promo code LessPrep20. I really hope you sign up. I'd love to see you there. And in the meantime, let's crack on with the episode. Welcome to Everything EFL podcast. My name's Erin O'Byrne and I absolutely love sharing my knowledge with you, my darling teacher, and helping you build not only community but your students' confidence. I truly believe that a positive frame of mind is essential for your students to learn. There's also a bunch of other teachy stuff thrown in for good measure too. Are you ready? Let's go! Hello, you gorgeous teacher. Welcome to Everything EFL podcast. If you are one of my gorgeous, lovely regular listeners, welcome back. I hope you've had a great week. If you're a brand new listener, you are most welcome. I hope you stick around. Today, I am going to talk about why I don't spend hours planning. Obviously, I've just prefaced this by saying if you are a more experienced teacher, you might recognise some of this stuff a bit. And if you're a newer teacher, maybe this will give you some food for thought. All right, and just maybe get you there a little bit quicker. Because I think that's where you need to be, guys. Do you remember that first ever lesson you planned for an actual lesson? I'm not talking about one of those practice lessons in your CELTA or your teaching qualification. I'm talking about the first time you walk into a classroom. Oh my God, I remember this. I was stressed out when I was planning. I was panicking. I was running around from teacher to teacher like going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to fill 2 hours with just this? And now I'm like, how am I going to do like all of this in 2 hours? Like your perspective changes so much as you gain experience. And, you know, at the beginning, it's hard. You've got those sleepless nights. I slept with a notepad next to my bed because I was wired. That first summer school I did, I was wired. And it was great. I was into it, you know, but at the same time, I was exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. And I do get like that when I go through a mad creative buzz. It is exhausting. So anyway, even after that, like I just until sort of when the pandemic started, up until that point, I was one of those teachers that spent hours and hours planning. Even though I knew I was a good teacher, you know, I just spent forever doing it. Every little detail was accounted for. And I just had this epiphany in lockdown. And I think a lot of us had a lot of epiphanies in lockdown about a lot of things. But I just started to resent all of that time I spent planning because you don't get any thanks for it. I certainly didn't get paid for it. Depending on your sector, if you are a mainstream teacher if you're in a mainstream school, you're probably on salary, but I bet you work very hard for that salary. If you are in a language school like me, and a lot of you who listen, I know you work in language schools as well. Or even if you're working for yourself and you're paying, you know, you're charging students a little bit more for the hour, you spend a lot of time planning. And you don't get paid for it. And also, I really do, like, I'm in contact with a lot of mainstream school teachers because I do teacher training. And I really feel bad for mainstream teachers because they've got so much other stuff to deal with as well, other admin and stuff like that. And then they have to plan on top of it. And there's just not so much, there's so little time for really thinking about content and creativity and, getting your students engaged. It's like, here's the course book, it's 45 minutes. I've got to do this. So anyway, back to my point. I used to get lots of compliments from students. Well, I still do, about how organised I am. But nowadays there are no detailed lesson plans, just a few illegible sentences and a few phrases and maybe a couple of times thrown in. But do I still deliver? Hell yeah. I just changed the way I do things. So I'm just going to take you through that little list and I'd love to know what you think by the end of this. So the first reason as to why I don't spend hours planning is I refuse to, because of the aforementioned not getting paid for it thing. Will my lessons suffer? I mean, maybe a tiny bit in that it's not executed flawlessly. What is in life? You go with what you react to what your students are doing as well. And that's something you can't really plan for. Now, I've been doing teacher training and I've been given a lot of sort of PowerPoint slides and materials. They're not my style. They're hard to work with. I find it very hard to work with other people's materials, and I know other teachers feel the same. It's no shade on teachers and their materials. You can't work with other teachers' materials. So I just sort of made my own stuff, and I have spent a bit of time on it, more than I would like. But I just started doing a few slides and then kind of added to it as the session goes on. And, I was quite honest with my teachers. I said, I've got, this slide, but I will be adding things as I go. I'm constantly thinking of things, constantly coming up with ideas. So if you have a little bit less to work with, it just makes your brain, your creativity is more likely to kick in, I think. I really believe that. You have to find creative solutions. You have to be on the ball. And it's exciting. And I think that a lot of teachers are scared to do that. And you shouldn't be, because as a teacher, you're probably quite naturally talented in a lot of ways. But sort of getting caught under the weight of things that we have to do and we're expected to deliver, I think we kind of lose that. Number 2. I use my dead time, by which I mean I commute, I get the bus to work. I've got 30-40 minutes. So if I know that I need to do just a little bit more, I will use that time on the bus. And I don't feel like I've used any of my time. Can you do something like that? And number 3, I don't plan hours of content for the future, because, you've got to think about reviewing the past stuff. You have to take time to do that. You cannot avoid it if you want your students to really remember stuff. You've got to have that repetition and review. Now, if you've only got a few minutes at the beginning of your lesson, use it. Just use it. Review. Reuse the same materials. Repeat activities. Think of how many things you can do with the text, for example. Just reusing things will make you more creative. You have to think of creative ways to use things. Think of a transcript, right? Just a transcript from your course book. You don't have to find one. It's there in your course book. Now write down 5 things you could do with that transcript. Number 4, while we're on the subject of content, if you have time like I do, I'm quite lucky, I have long lessons, do kind of less content, like what am I supposed to do with this lesson? What's the topic of this lesson? Create all that, but leave space for things like inspirational quotes, taking note of students' emergent language, see episode 60 to 62, and, thinking about what to do with that in future lessons and using that in future lessons for 10-20 minutes. Watch out for my masterclass, by the way, that's coming up soon. Work on mindset and confidence, collaborative things that require just, a good setup from you, good staging, and then just let the students do their thing. Some breathing maybe, going to our happy place. There are so many little bits and pieces you can do that require little prep, but, really go a long way. And they're great for students' mindset and self-belief. Number 5. I kind of changed the way I plan as well. I used to plan for the whole week, but now I usually just plan for a couple of days. And then I kind of listen to what's happening in class, what the students are saying, what they're responding to, what they like. Again, the emergent language. What direction do I want to take based on all of this? And what do the students want to do this week? Again, I know it's not always possible to ask them, but try to include your students in your content as well. I'm actually doing a blended learning course at the moment. I'm teacher training blended learning. I really got to be honest, I don't know really anything about it. So I got some PowerPoints from someone. They were lovely PowerPoints, loads of information, but like I said before, it's somebody else's material. and it's going to take me a long time to look through. And I've actually looked through with a friend. Like, we would talk through one of the slides. We came up with some ideas. But I actually asked my students to go home tonight and look through the slides themselves and decide what's important, what they want to do. Give it a go. And if you are including your students, can you give them some kind of choice? Like, what do you want to listen to? A song. Okay. What song? What do you want to listen to? And then have a class vote and get everybody involved. They love that. Number 6, give students time to enjoy just speaking and just, using the language. Going back to that first few minutes of the lesson or last few minutes of the lesson, try to include some of the past language that you've learned into conversational questions and get students to discuss a couple of questions at the beginning of each lesson. Make it clear to them you're not correcting them. You just want them to use the language and enjoy it. And that's it. That's all you want from it. Even if your time is limited, it can't just be this robotic repetition and production of a piece of language or a grammar point. There has to be time to use the language in a nice, natural way. Number 7. Okay, I do have experience at this point. I can anticipate problems. I have my CCQs ready to go in the back of my mind. I anticipate pronunciation issues, timing. Could you read my lesson plan? No, but it doesn't matter because I can. And I'll manage to scribble in front of me, thank you. Number 8, and this is the big one, guys, and I want everybody to listen to this. I trust my skills. There, I said it. Yes, it's easier for me, I'm experienced, but even lots of experienced teachers don't do this. I've had revelations in the last couple of weeks talking to teachers, and they don't trust their skills. Like, they don't think to relinquish a bit of control, prep a little bit less, and just deliver the lesson and have confidence in themselves to actually deliver. And that really surprised me. But then again, it doesn't. Teachers can have low self-esteem. They get beaten up about, themselves and stuff. I've seen it. So, like, a lot of them, when we talked about this trust your skills thing, they've all done the same thing. They've sort of looked, they've tilted their head and looked far away and just gone, and nodded and written down the phrase, trust your skills, like in their book, because it's never occurred to them to do that. A lot of teachers, again, I'm going to go back to mainstream education here. They're this machine of burnt out productivity. It's really messed up. Like, they plan, they copy, they do the admin, the reports, the corrections, chatting with the parents. But not one of them has thought to go, it's 7 o'clock. Fuck it, I'll just take what I've done and I'll figure it out as I go tomorrow. We've all done that at least once, haven't we? Did your lesson work? Yes. Was it perfect? No. But who cares? Why does every lesson have to be perfect? Can you answer me that question? Are you perfect? Are your students perfect? Why should your lesson plans be perfect? Why can't they just be good and engaging and interesting? Isn't that enough? Like, isn't that what students actually need? Just engaging and interesting? No? Am I wrong? Maybe I am. Anyway, I'm not saying go in unprepared, but you don't have to plan every last second to the last detail, especially if you're not getting paid for it, and especially if you've got 20 other things to do. Plus, your life. Remember that? Anyway, my final message is, as long as you are doing your best, and you're doing as much as you can within reason to help your students, you are doing enough. And after 17 years, I don't need a full lesson plan and every last second of my actions in the lesson accounted for. I trust my skills enough and I care about the students enough to deliver a quality lesson. How about you? Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I got quite worked up there. I have to say, this is obviously something that's quite close to my heart. I would love to know what you think about this. I really would. I think this is a very important thing to talk about, and I don't see it being talked about enough. We seem to just accept things like not getting paid for stuff. What's that all about? Anyway, have a lovely, peaceful week. Don't work too hard. Trust your skills and share the love. Bye.